Yo, what's up, y'all? This is Stoff 100X. Some of y'all know me as B from Addicts to Fantastic. This is what it was like for me when I stopped drinking lean. For me, codeine was my magic elixir. I used to call it that, the elixir. You know, I love the way it made me feel. I love the taste of it. In Philly, my generation has been drinking lean since the early 80s, so it ain't nothing new to us in Philly. We call syrup the hustler's high because you had to be a hustler to be able to afford it. And back when I was drinking it, it started off at $25 an ounce and up to $60 an ounce by the time I had stopped. And I was drinking it every day, so it was an expensive habit. That's one of the reasons why I stopped. Another reason why I stopped was because I was becoming physically addicted, and I didn't even realize that until I went on my honeymoon, you know. I didn't take no pills or syrup with me on the cruise ship to Bermuda, and my friends, they asked me, yo, you gonna take a pint with you on your honeymoon? And I was like, nah, man, I ain't taking no pint of lean with me on my honeymoon. You know, I looked at them like they was crazy. You know, I was like, you know, I could turn this shit on and off. You know, I'm there to spend some time with my wife, you know. But while I was on that cruise ship, I started to feel sick. I mean, it's funny now, but it wasn't funny then. You know, my dumb ass, I thought I was seasick. I didn't know I was physically addicted, man. I was sweating, shivering. I got diarrhea. And like I said, I didn't know what was going on. But I pushed through it by drinking massive amounts of alcohol. And by the fourth or fifth day, I started to feel a little better. But as soon as I got back to Philly, as soon as I got back and my bags hit the living room floor, I was out the door and back down my way down J Street to get what we call in Philly my shot, which was codeine and Percocet. And immediately, when I put it in my system, I felt great. My friends down J Street, they told me, yo, we told you should have took an ounce with you or a pint with you on your honeymoon. But from that point on, I knew that I was addicted. 13 years went by me drinking codeine and taking Percocets and Xanax. Those 13 years, I went through car crashes, losing money, misplacing jewelry, getting my jewelry taken while I was nodding out, embarrassing myself, losing jobs, all because I was addicted to lean. I started having seizures from taking the Xanax, so I had to take that out of the equation. But that wasn't hard for me to stop taking the Xanax because I was waking up on the floor and not knowing how I got there. That was a scary situation. So it wasn't difficult for me to drop that, you know. But I stuck with the Percocet and the leans. I felt like the coolest person in the room. That's what opioids, they do for you. They make you feel warm and cozy and calm and cool on the inside. But on the outside, to your friends, you look like a junkie. I was slurring my words and ultimately not being a thoroughbred. See, I didn't understand that, you know, when I was high, I didn't present myself as a thoroughbred. I looked like a bum. You know, I didn't realize that until after I got clean. I grew up a rumbler, you know, a fighter, a rapper, and a real estate investor who had bought 5 houses in Philadelphia. So in my community, I was a somebody. But the longer I stayed addicted to the drugs, my value went down. See, on the inside, I felt cool and smooth, but on the outside, I looked inebriated and non-functional. I told my wife, yo, I got to stop drinking this shit. It was tearing my marriage apart and my relationship with my kids. My son told my wife one day with tears in his eyes, what's wrong with daddy? He keeps falling asleep while he's talking to me. I pulled out my cell phone. I went to my phone. I had numbers at everybody in the city that sold lean. And one by one, I deleted all the numbers out of my phone. My wife looked at me and said, are you okay? I told my wife, baby, this feels like I'm breaking up with a girlfriend. That's crazy. Because throughout that 13 years of addiction, I lost all 5 of my houses because I was making bad financial and business decisions. And still, that shit felt like breaking up with a girlfriend. I went from owning property to now renting a house for my family. I went from having the luxury of having passive income to now being a dishwasher at 40 years old, struggling to pay my bills and keep up with my habit. And this shit was like breaking up with a girlfriend. If this was a girlfriend, golly, this was a damn toxic relationship. I wanted to better myself. I wanted to make a change. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I knew I was a thoroughbred and I wanted more. But the biggest hurdle for me to get clean was getting out of my own way. I had to stop trying to do it my way. When I started to follow the suggestions of addicts who are now living clean, that's when I was able to get clean myself. And one of the suggestions that I got was go to treatment, Staff. But I didn't want to go to rehab, but I did it. And now I've accumulated a few years of clean time. And this is how I got clean from my opioid addiction.